Welcome everybody. This is the very last presentation that we're doing in this Library Week event. So if you missed any recordings from the previous sessions, but you didn't know what was going on and you didn't register, we can still get you those links to view any of these. So even if you're joining us just now for this last session, feel free to reach out to us and we will get you that information for any of the previous sessions that you may have missed. This last session is going to be an introduction to the MLA style. It's going to be presented by me, and Julia Stone is going to monitor the chat. So here's our pictures. I'll go first and then I'll have Julia introduce herself. My name is Amanda Miller. I am a reference and instruction associate at the Youngstown campus. So I am in seat most of the time on the campus, but I do help virtually also. You can email me. I have our library help email there, because if you do think of any questions, comments, or concerns about these workshops, you can definitely reach out to me, but LibHelp will get you any of our librarians to assist you. And if you need to call the Youngstown campus for any reason, there's our number and the extension.
Hi, I'm Julia Stone. I'm a reference and instruction librarian at EJCC. I handle a lot of our virtual services since I am located on the West Coast and I work entirely remotely. I'm going to go ahead and send in some info about our Library Week sessions, and you can email us if you want recordings of any of those other sessions. But I'd be happy to answer any questions via email, phone, whatever works for you. Thanks.
Okay, from here, I am going to stop my video just to conserve bandwidth. And all attendees are going to be muted, but if you would like, at the end, we're going to have a Q&A session. So you can unmute yourself at the end. If you would like to discuss anything, ask some questions, comment on something, please utilize the chat because Julia is monitoring the chat. And this session is being recorded. We will email everybody a link to who registered for this workshop. So check your inbox as soon as it's done uploading. So what is MLA? MLA stands for Modern Language Association, and this is a type of style and format that we use to cite sources, normally within the language arts, cultural studies, and other humanity disciplines. So some of us will be citing an MLA for our different classes here at Eastern Gateway. MLA style establishes standards regarding citations and style and formatting. When we're talking about citations, there's two different ways to go about it. We can do the in-text citations, which is citing sources within the text of your paper. So anytime you direct quote or paraphrase something, that's called an in-text citation within the body paragraphs. Everything that you cite in text is going to need an entry on the works cited page. So those are works cited citations. Citing sources at the end comes on its own page and it's labeled works cited. That previous slide had a picture of what the MLA handbook looks like, and we linked it to you here. Through our Eastern Gateway library, you have free access to it, and you can click on it anytime, day or night, to look up kind of those a little bit stranger things you might need to cite in some of your classes. And we're going to take a look really quick at this official paper. Let's take a look at this sample citation paper, and you'll be able to click on this link when we send out the slides too. So here's some things I want you to note about MLA style on this sample paper. The top right hand always has this running head where it contains your last name and the page number. And that happens on every single solitary page, including the works cited page, your last name, page number. Directing your eyes to the left-hand side, it's your name, the professor of the class title and section number, and then the due date of the thing you're turning in. So project or portfolio, whatever kind of paper you're working with MLA, just put the due date there. So some information needs to always happen on the left-hand side. In the center of the page, this is your original title. All MLA papers should have an original title of your own making, unless the professor requires you to call the paper something else. So if they want you to call it homework number 1, then just do what they want in their class. Otherwise, if they don't say, come up with an original title. And you can see this kind of long one here in the center. All paragraphs are indented, but justified left. So when you begin the body of your paper, always indent every single solitary paragraph. It's all justified left, and it's all double spaced. There is no extra spacing between the paragraphs. You can kind of see that in this paper. The sample paper even has a couple examples of in-text citations. And this sample paper is interesting because it also includes headings. It's not that common to use headings in MLA. So while you're looking at this paper, take these headings with a grain of salt. If your professor requires or makes you use headings, then you always justify them left, and then you do the section title, whatever this topic is going to be, and you still justify the paragraphs left. Most professors will not require headings, so just double check with them in case they need to. But if you need to use them, definitely reference this page. And I'm going to scroll down. Sorry about the eyes. I want to get to the works cited page, because a couple of things to note on the works cited page: everything is justified left, and everything that runs on a second line has a hanging indent, which means it's kind of indented just a little farther for readability. So, you know, we do this hanging indent so we can set aside, the professor can easily read who the authors are, and it just kind of flows on the paper for them. So we have to make sure we do a hanging indent for every entry that is more than 2 lines. And we can kind of see what that looks like. It's all alphabetical, and you can see this person even used Dungy and Tyson twice, like underneath. So 2 works by Dungy, 2 works by Tyson. So you do those little dash marks to indicate you use the same author for 2 different sources, which isn't that uncommon, because you might find a really good source by that person. It's just 2 different things. Like this is a YouTube video. So this person had 2 different episodes about this thing that they're working on in their paper. And there are ways to do it, but you have to do it to make sure that you signal to your professor that you are doing things like this so they can read it and understand what's happening. Okay. So that's the sample paper. 3 steps for creating MLA citations when you get all of your sources gathered. The first is determine the type of source that you're looking at. Is it a hardbound book that you actually have in person? Is it an ebook? Is it a journal? Is it a website? Is it a YouTube video? You have to determine how to cite certain sources correctly. Then you create the citation for the works cited page. And the works cited page is on its own. It looks like it follows certain formatting. And then you can create the in-text citation whenever you use that source in your paper. So we'll go through these a little bit more in depth. Determining the types of sources that you're using. Citations are formatted differently depending on what type of source you're citing. YouTube is different than a regular old book. Some types of sources that you'll come in contact with in college are books, but mainly probably ebooks if you're using our library resources. Definitely journal articles for a lot of classes, and tons of webpage and maybe videos, documentaries, things like that. You'll create the citation for the works cited page. So in the next few slides, we will go over how to cite a few common types of sources on that works cited page that you put at the end of your paper. If you need to cite a type of source that is not reviewed in this presentation, please click on these 2 links. They'll take you into the MLA handbook and a really great, helpful website called Purdue OWL. And they list out many, many different types of sources that you could be using in your paper project. One of the easiest things to cite is a book with 1 author, because it's very simple. We only have so much information, so that's what we include. We would need the last name, comma, first name. There's a period. The title of the book is italicized. The city of publication can be used, but it's not always necessary. But do put the publisher, the company who put this forth, and the publication date. And you should be able to find all of this stuff on the title page or the index. Well, yeah, I think they call it like a splash page or something. If you have the book physically in your hand, you can see that, and ebooks often have this same type of format, and you'll be able to find all this information. When you click on that link, it takes you into the library, and it shows you what this looks like. So we only have the information to cite the last name, comma, first name, which is O'Brien and Tim. He wrote the things they carried, so it's a title, so we italicize it. The city of publication was Boston, and Houghton Mifflin Harcourt is the publisher. And we can see the date of the exact edition that we are using, because technically Tim O'Brien wrote this in the 50s, so we're not using an edition from the 50s, so we're putting the publication date of the thing that we are using. The same goes that if we're looking at the last name or two authors, we just kind of invert the first and last name of the first one, and then we leave the second one alone. So that's kind of what changes for this. We inverted O'Brien, comma, Tim, because we do always the last name. So this one, whoever appears first on the book, their name gets inverted, so we'll use their last name first. So last name, comma, first name, comma, and first name, last name of the second person. Those don't get inverted. That's just regular how it's spelled out. The title of the book is still italicized. The city of publication, if needed, the publisher and publication year. So we can see that down here. Scapura is inverted because he was the first one listed on this book, and then John Marlowe just gets spelled out regularly. Title is italicized. We have who published it and the publication year of this exact one. I'm going to move this. Okay, that's better. A lot of times in college, you're going to come in contact with an article in an electronic journal with 3 or more authors. So an article in an electronic journal, most of the same principles apply. Even if you have a book with 3 or more authors, this is how it's going to look where it's highlighted yellow. So the first person listed, their last name and first name is inverted because we're going by last name. So last name, comma, first name, comma. Then we use et al, indicating to the person reading our paper that there's 3 or more authors, because we will only list out the 2 people like the previous slide if there's only 2 of them. 3 is the magic number where you use this et al abbreviation, and et al is abbreviated this way because it's a Latin word and it means and others. And then in blue, this is also what changes. So before in the ebooks, we italicize the title of the book. This is an article, so we're putting it in quotation marks. We do not need to italicize the title of articles. The title of the journal, though, is italicized. You can see that after the quotation marks and period, title of the journal, italicized, comma, volume number, comma, issue number, if it has an issue number, publication year, PP stands for page range, and then a period to end it all. So if a source has 3 or more authors, only the first one shown in the source is given credit to, followed by et al. For articles 1 or 2, just list them how we saw in the earlier examples. It doesn't matter if it's a book, article, you list them out how the samples were. So in our sample article, it is Corsand, comma, Goldberg. So last name, comma, first name. And then we can read that this is more than 3 authors wrote this. Doesn't matter up to like 50, whoever. Et al means and others, period. The title all the way in quotation marks, not italicized, period. And then you italicize the journal that this came from. You can see that in the example. This has volume number and an issue number. So volume number 10, issue number 2, comma, the year that it was published, comma, and this had page range. So again, that's abbreviated PP, and we know that it's 8 pages long. It went through this journal from page 45 to 53, meaning that there were articles before and after this. So we are indicating the page range of this because we have that information. If the teacher needs to go back and click on it, that's where they're kind of looking, or if they need to go find this otherwise. When we're looking at book chapters, sometimes you're not using a whole book for your research or project. Sometimes you're only using one chapter. If you start digging around in our library databases, a lot of the ebooks have chapters that you can just download. So maybe you don't need all 27 chapters of the book about the topic you're looking at. You only want one chapter. So you're only citing one chapter in that book, and here's how you do it. Let's say this book only had one author, their last name, comma, first name, period. We treat the title of the chapter as an article. So that's why you put it in quotation marks and a period indicating that you're done talking about the title of the chapter. The title of the collection, though, is italicized, followed by a comma, edited by editors' names if you're able to locate this. Not every book or chapter that you're looking at has editors, but try to look around for it in the selection if you have it. Comma, publisher, comma, year, PP is the page range of the entry, and then a period to end it all. The example is only one author, so Burling, comma, Alexis, wrote the chapter called Literary Fiction. We know that came from the book Women in Literature. That's the title of the book or collection. The publisher, we don't have any editors, so we don't put them. It's okay if you can't find them. Just include them if you can. The year that this was published, and then the page range of that specific chapter. So that's all the information we have, so that's what we can put. If you're using an entire website for your research, look around to see if the website gave credit to who wrote the thing you're looking at. Not all websites are going to have somebody listed out as the author of the thing, but we can kind of see. If not, we just eliminate that space. So if there is not an author listed, we could just skip over to the website title / name. If you can find it, invert it like we always do, author, last name, first name. But if not, leave that space out and skip right into the website title or the name of the website. And that gets italicized because we're treating it almost like a book name. Put a period, and then do the name of the institution or the organization affiliated with the site. You can also look for the sponsor or publisher of this site. Again, we're kind of gathering information from the website that we're looking at and seeing what could work in these things. So, date of the resource, if available. If you can't find where it was created or edited, then you skip that part, just like if we don't have an author, last name, or first name. Don't make up anything. Don't try to fit something in there that isn't needed. We just don't make up dates or whatever. But look for it if it's available, use it. And if it has a DOI, which is a digital object identifier, a lot of websites, government, information that's like public health and stuff like that, often have a digital object identifier, which is kind of like a permanent link to that website. If not, you could do just the URL that's found at the top bar. We do not need the HTTPS in it. You just kind of copy and paste everything after that. If there is no digital object identifier, the URL will suffice. Period, date of access, used for sources that are updated frequently, like the CDC website, certain government websites. If they're constantly talking about population growth or, agricultural things, maybe your date of access was a month ago, but maybe there was flooding and, stuff changed with crops. So if your professor accesses that website a month from now, the information might look different. But if you cover yourself and put date of access, like I looked at it this date, I use this information, you're covering yourself. Sometimes the publisher of the site is the same as the website name. You only need to list it twice. So you wouldn't do like If you're looking at the whole website of the CDC, you wouldn't use the CDC as the name of the institution. Again, it's just not needed. And you can kind of see that in the example with the Pluralism Project. We wouldn't use Pluralism Project and then put Pluralism Project again because it's maybe the name of the institution or like the organization that's putting this on. We just don't do that. Instead, just go straight to the Harvard University, which is housing the Pluralism Project website. You can put the URL, which is this pluralism.org, and then you accessed it on that date just in case any of that information changes. Sometimes, though, we're not using the whole Pluralism Project website. Sometimes we're not using the whole CDC website. You know, they have hundreds and hundreds of pages on there, these more complicated websites. We're only using an individual page on that website. So be sure to give credit to an individual page if that's all you're using. So if you're using, you know, the latest COVID-19 data from the CDC website, you know, the CDC website also talks about smallpox and the flu. So we want to narrow it down. And most of the time you're using an individual web page on a website. And that often confuses students that you just didn't give enough information on the works cited page and your professor was confused that you're using this whole website to cite things when it was probably only one web page on that site. So here's how we do an individual page on a website. What happens is we give the title or the name of the article. So again, always look for if there's an author. If there's not, then you skip over it and do the title of the page or article that you are specifically looking at in that website. So that's why it's highlighted blue. We do that in quotation marks, you put a period, and then you italicize the title or the name of the site. Do the sponsor, publisher, comma, date of resource creation if you can find it. If not, skip it. The DOI is always preferred. And again, look for the DOI. It's somewhere if it is available. Otherwise, just use the URL without the HTTPS and date of access because it's probably going to change. So the example down at the bottom has the humanist history title of the web page on the Pluralism Project. So that is in quotation marks and not italicized. So we can read that as the title of the website use or the page on the website use. The Pluralism Project is the name of the site and the sponsor is Harvard University, the specific URL. So in the previous example, it wasn't that fax or the like, what is that called? The slash mark, whatever it is, the pluralism.org. Now we added on humanist-history because that individual site was used in our paper, not the whole pluralism.org. So we want to give credit to just that one. And then the date access, of course, because it's probably going to change information. So some of us are citing a video or documentary or something that our professor loaded into our classes. And there's certain ways to do that too. It is possible. We always look for the creator's last name and first name first, but sometimes it's not always as easy. Sometimes it is an organization putting it on. Sometimes it's a screen name of somebody and we don't know their real first name or last name. Sometimes we put something in the creator's position if we know who created it. So in our example, we created a video. So we use our information because we were the creator, EGCC Library and Information Commons, if you can see it down there. I've seen students use, you know, like somebody's just screen name, like I love video games 123, which is fine because in your paper you would cite, you know, I love video games 123 said this, this, and this. The EGCC Library and Information Commons talked about this, this, and this in the video. So that's kind of why we do it, because when we talk about it in text, we need something to refer back to. So always use the creator information first if you can find it. And then the title of the video, since it's just a video, we treat it like an article title in quotation marks, period. The name of the streaming service. So we can actually even like do things like this, sub this out for like Netflix or Twitch or something like that. But this example is YouTube, uploaded by username if you can't find any creator or whatever, or if it's like something that came from somewhere else. So a lot of times I do see on a web page that they got like an information segment from, but it didn't come from the official like CNN or the CNN YouTube. So if you have a username or anything like that didn't create the video, that's where you place it. And honestly, it kind of just depends on the YouTube video or documentary or streaming service that you're pulling this information from, where you're going to put the information. Do the date uploaded if you have that information. And we do it kind of like the July, the 2012, that's how you list out the date. And then the URL, and no URLs in MLA get the HTTPS. Skipping down to our example, it's us who put it on EGCC Library Information Common. The title of the video, we uploaded it to YouTube, so it's italicized on the 28th of April, 2001, comma, and then there's the URL to get us straight there. So if the author's name is the same as the uploader only cite it once. We don't need to double cite authors or anything, or creators. It's only when the author is different from the uploader or creator, then cite the author's last name before the title. And again, it just depends on the video you're looking at, what you have to do to manipulate this. Sometimes we have to refer back to classroom PowerPoint presentations. So this is something that your instructor uploaded and created. So you do their last name and first name. So the instructor of the course, comma, first name, period. Title of the presentation is in quotation marks and you put a period. The title of the course. Then the date of presentation, if you can find it. So sometimes they may have created it maybe a year ago and you could find that somewhere. If not, just skip it. Comma, the college name that you're looking at it from. Period, Microsoft PowerPoint presentation, because we want to keep the thing that it is. So PowerPoint presentation, I think, would suffice too. Microsoft PowerPoint is clearly the person who puts on PowerPoint, but as long as you indicate, I've seen even students just put, you know, Eastern Gateway Community College, period, PowerPoint, period, which also suffices. This is just a lot of information just to know you can manipulate it a little bit and still be okay. And in the example, the teacher's name is Engel, comma, Susan, period. The title of the presentation that you are citing maybe in a discussion or something is the Microeconomics and Introduction. And that clearly came from Microeconomics. They uploaded it on the 4th of February, 2022. We're at Eastern Gateway Community College, and it is a Microsoft PowerPoint presentation. Once we have all our works cited down pat, we know what we're creating in our works cited page, then we can create some in-text citations based off the information in those sources. So in the next few slides, we'll go over how to create those in-text citations within the body paragraphs of your paper. And again, we're linking you to Purdue OWL because that is going to talk about like those different types of in-text citations that we just don't have time to cover in this. We'll go through the basics, but you might have a different type of source that you need to refer back to the in-text citation, so you can click on that. So here's the basics. In-text citations are meant to point your reader to one of the citations on your works cited page. Everything that you use in the body paragraphs should have a corresponding works cited reference entry, and everything on the works cited page should be cited in the body. It's a two-way street. It's not one or the other. For MLA, you will generally follow the author page number method of in-text citation. So if you're using a parenthetical citation in your text of the paper, author's last name, page number. Note the lack of punctuation except for the parentheses. So last name, page number it came from. Here's an example of an in-text citation with one author. So maybe we want to cite this book that we kind of referenced earlier, and it's the Tim O'Brien work. First, we would determine which page we are citing from in the book. And in this case, we are referencing the page on page 29. We are referencing the text on page 29. So we took an idea from O'Brien on page 29. So you would do a sentence paraphrasing the work, and then in parentheses, O'Brien 29, period. So that's a parenthetical in-text citation. There's no comma in between the author last name and the page number. So here's an example of an in-text citation with two authors. Again, we referenced this one just a few slides ago. Say we want this Scapura, Robert, and we didn't invert John Marlowe, but we want to take an idea from this book. We would need to look at the page number that we got it from. Let's say it's page 68. The in-text citation would be Scapura and Marlowe. So we're just using their last names and the page number. And again, in parentheses, because this is a parenthetical citation. So we might encounter something with 3 or more authors. Again, 3 or more was that et al. Example. So the first author's last name that appears in the book or the article, and then that et al. And the page number in parentheses. So that example we showed earlier, let's say we're referencing from page 46. It would come before you end the sentence in the parentheses. So Corsand et al. Signals to the reader that there's 3 or more, and we got the idea from page 46. And end the sentence always with a period after the parentheses. So sometimes you're looking at a website or something written that has no known author. For these types of resources with no known author, the in-text citation should match the first element of the works cited entry. So this may be the title of the article, the web page, the website, etc., etc. So if you weren't able to find an author, this is how you go about doing that. If the source title is longer than 4 words, shorten it to the first word or phrase of the source name, excluding words like a, an, or the. Example, if you're looking at something in the quick guide to editing, it would become quick guide. Put it in quotations, and if you need to reference it in a parenthetical, then put it in parentheses. If the source is a whole website or an entire book, use italics for your in-text citation. So that's if you were using multiple pages of something, then the italics. Otherwise, we treat it with the parentheses. If the source is contained within a larger work, like a page on a website, still utilize those quotation marks for your in-text citation. So let's review a way to include the in-text citation in your paper. You have some options. You can do it at the end of the sentence, like those examples that we were just showing you on previous slides. So this is the last name and page number in parentheses. You can do it in the middle of the sentence or like right before you start the sentence. So you can use last name, say like Miller, page 3, discusses this, this, and this. Since you already put it in like the middle of the sentence, you don't need to do anything at the end. And then anytime that there's a direct quote. So you put the direct quote in quotation marks. We need a direct quote around, or we need quotation marks around a direct quote to signal to the reader of our paper, like this is actually like a direct quote from somebody else. Paraphrases are different than direct quotes because paraphrases, we're just loosely taking their idea and putting it into our own words. A direct quote is what's copied and pasted essentially from a book or article. But you want to signal to the reader that it's a direct quote. We still need the last name and the page number because we still got to get credit to direct quotes. Again, here's some in-text citation examples. So if the author's name is not in the sentence, this is where we paraphrase. It's writing something in your own words based off the information from the source. If you do not include the author's name in your sentence, you include the full in-text citation at the end of the sentence. So here's the example. We got this idea and we put it in our own words, so we didn't direct quote from Tyner, but we got this idea and paraphrased it, and then we're giving credit to Tyner at the end So we're putting it in parentheses, in parentheses, and we're doing last name and the page number that that idea came from, and of course the period indicating that's the end of the sentence. If you want to put the author's last name in the sentence, you absolutely can, but make sure you put the page number at the end of the sentence. So the example is Tyner asserts, and then you paraphrase some idea from page 19, and then you include the page 19 at the end before the period. So the reader knows, like, oh, this came from page 19, but it came from Tyner. So some in-text citations after a direct quote. You have a few options for in-text citations when using a direct quote as well, depending on if you use the author's last name in the sentence or not. Set up each and every quote before quoting someone else, though, and this is particularly helpful in MLA because you need to guide the reader into a direct quote. So an example of this could be the author discusses, so you didn't say their last name, but you are using a direct quote from Tyner, and this came from page 19. So you give credit to it because you didn't give credit to Tyner in the sentence. So do it after the direct quote, like the example. Or you can switch it up and do Tyner writes, comma, the same direct quote, signaling it came from page 19 in parentheses, and that's right before the end of the sentence. So a couple ways to do it, and honestly, just switch it up like as you write your paper. So here's some additional rules for in-text citation. Multiple works by the same author in your works cited page, you'll need to include the author's last name, then a comma, and then a shortened version of the title, followed by the page number. So Vonnegut, comma, Cat's Cradle, 120. This could be if you are using multiple by the same exact, not if they have the same exact last name. So you can do multiple citations by the same author in one sentence. So when you have two citations for the same author in one sentence, usually quotes from two different pages, you can combine them in one citation at the end of the sentence like that. So if you want to do two different Hemingway quotes from page 38 and page 42, you separate the page numbers out with with commas, but still keep them in the parentheses. And then authors with the same last name gets a little different. You'll want to use their first initial. So these are two different people, but maybe with a common last name. So S. Roberts 39, and then later on, if you want to use like L. Roberts 57, at least your person reading the paper will know that it's two different Roberts doing two different things. And that's kind of common with these common last names. So just concluding this MLA presentation, MLA style establishes standards regarding style and formatting. The works cited page should feature a hanging indent, double spacing, and citations in alphabetical order. So refer back to that sample paper, or click on Purdue OWL's information that we provided. And then when you're working on citations, the works cited citations, citing sources at the end of your paper in the works cited page. Pro tip, just create this first so you know to include them all in your body paragraphs. And in-text citations are citing the sources within the text of your paper. Here's some helpful links at the end, so keep this handy. It takes you to the MLA Handbook Plus that we have in the library. We also have an Eastern Gateway Community College one that we wrote. It's a writing guide all about MLA. Purdue OWL we mentioned a couple times. There's different ones for works cited and the in-text citations. We do have an MLA YouTube video, and we have our own YouTube channel with tons of helpful writing tips about everything that you might need to access in your classes and through the library. If you're really stuck, you can always make a citation appointment with a librarian here at Eastern Gateway. To make a one-on-one citation help appointment, click that library calendar, and it'll take you to that page, and you can schedule an appointment with whatever availability works for you that we have going on. We will help you create or edit your in-text and reference or works cited pages. So you should have something at least established, or you should have a general idea of maybe what you're working with for these citation appointments, because we can review citation style requirements or go over anything that was really confusing. We do assist with citation formatting, but what we don't do is proofread or review your research paper content. Like, we can help you build in-text citations, we can help you research, but for grammar content issues, please visit the EGCC tutoring website, which is linked right then and there. Did we have any questions?
Yeah, I didn't see any questions come up in chat during the presentation, but feel free to type them now if you have them. Yeah, it looks like we're all set, Amanda.
All right. Thank you so much, Julia, for monitoring the chat. And thank you for everybody joining us live. We really appreciate it. We'll send out the link as soon as this is done uploading. And let us know if you need the links to any other session that we've conducted this week, and we can certainly get that for you.